Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. It's Martha Henderson with Rising Tides Online. This is the second of this series of sharing the Rising Tides community on Facebook and online during this time of social isolation, getting us a little less isolated, connecting through these great online platforms. And so I'm really thrilled to welcome Laura Tucker, leadership coach and host of the Free Your Inner Guru podcast. Those of you who have been involved with Rising Tides know Laura well. She has been a speaker, a sponsor, and an overall guide in this entire Rising Tides event series. So hi, Laura. Thanks very much for coming on today.
Thanks so much for inviting me, Martha.
Yeah, it's tough in this. You and I like to go out for a glass of wine and chat and solve all the problems of the world. And I sort of feel like I have my coffee here, but I miss those interactions with people. And that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is to create dialogue, create conversations so that we continue to, as social beings, relate to one another and not sort of feel so isolated but be responsible in the same time. So how are you dealing with this isolation, and what's keeping you uplifted in these past few days?
So actually, you know what, Martha, it's been a number of weeks for me because I was on vacation. I was away while things were starting to happen. And so by this weekend, I'll be out of my 14 days.
Wow.
So if you count the 2 weeks, which have been in many ways, as you can all, I'm sure, identify with, it's been some of the longest weeks ever, right? Time does funny things. And then the 2 weeks prior to that, although we were in beautiful Hawaii, the only person that I know who I was sharing time with was my husband, which is a good thing to get away together. And now we're finishing that period of isolation, and he's been laid off. So he's going to be home for 2 months. He works for Porter Airlines, which is all over the news. So anyone who knows that. And so it's just very strange times, and it requires a concerted focus to stay, neutral to positive and not get dragged down. And not to say it doesn't happen. I'm not impermeable. Stuff gets to me too. But I feel like I'm already in for a long haul. I've been in for a haul, and now we're in for more.
Yeah. So you ran an online course this past summer, and then carried on into the winter and the summer of self-care. And one of the things that I took away from that was a morning walk. And I have been completely faithful to that habit or routine, or whatever one you want to call it, initially to give a structure to my day, but also now in the social isolation, I need to getting outside is a big thing. And I think that and I don't want to, I'm not telling people how to run their lives, but I think fresh air is just such a it was one of those things that my mother used to say to me all the time: "Dear, go out and get some fresh air." And it's true. You need to go out and get some fresh air.
Yeah, because it came out of the summer of self-care and the winter of self-care, I'm super aware of what the walk means to you. And that raises what an important element of it is, that it's intentionally meeting some of your own needs for structure and exercise and connection with the outdoors. And we wrapped up the winter of self-care today, the first day of spring. Happy spring, everybody.
Oh, happy spring. I should have said that right after that. Exactly.
Like it's even like a day that would normally be, it's spring, let's move forward. Yay. It's almost getting lost in the mix. But whether or not the humans are in physical isolation, Mother Nature is saying it's spring. And I'm a bit grateful for that, because it does allow, especially in our climate, make it a little bit easier day by day to be out of doors, which I agree is a fundamental strategy for wellness and mental health right now, among many other alternatives.
And one of these things that we talked about a little bit earlier is getting mired down in muck of online social media. I mean, you and I both have online businesses. I have two that are sort of online travel, which is now just a complete panic, and trying not to make it a panic. And of course, a personal care product business. And, we as solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, whatever word you want to use it, we depend on these mediums right now for connection, to promote our product, to live and thrive and survive. And I don't know if you've encountered this, but I've definitely encountered a bit of a negative tone from people online saying you shouldn't be promoting your business or moving yourself forward in a time of crisis. And life has to go on, and we have to continue to socially interact and socially build upon what it is that we're doing. And, there are some businesses that are absolutely thriving. Toilet paper businesses, for one thing, are thriving. And, I'm encountering some judgment, and I don't know what you're finding or how you are approaching this, but like online is where you do your business. And and you've got another platform that you've got coming up, a free platform, which is going to be great. Do we shut down? Do we keep going? What is it? Where do we exist in this space?
Well, there's so many points within what you're putting up there. And I think the first one that I want to address is that we all need to recognize that every single one of us right now has been disrupted. Mm-hmm. It's a health concern. So it's the great leveler. So nobody is unscathed. Now, in any kind of time of disruption or, lean times of business, there's always businesses that thrive. And there's some weird stuff going on right now with the toilet paper that's, driven by scarcity. And even though there's no true scarcity, but I think people are feeling like they want to control something. Mm-hmm. And, you can't go out and buy 6 months worth of bananas from the store or lettuce from the store, but that toilet paper is not going to rot and you're going to use it anyway. So it's like an easy target for exercising control where there really is none, mm-hmm. despite the fact that the supply chain is there. So despite all of that. So I think that everybody in business needs to be sensitive to the fact that there are people who are absolutely struggling, whether they own their own business or not, and needs to be mindful when they are communicating, and really show up in service and out of generosity, like you are doing right now with these calls. Mm-hmm. This is generous for you to set aside the time to organize this and allow a platform, but also engage people in a different way. With what I've decided to do, it was inspired by our call last week. And I was like, I want to do something. I'm a doer. Okay. And in the domain of being and doing, and I try to be as much as possible, but bottom line, I'm a doer. I feel like I need to do something. I can't sing, I can't paint, I can't do. I'm sure I could maybe give photography classes, and maybe I should. But I was like, what can I do? And the thing that I can do is support people in a time of disruption. It just happens that that's my business. I'm not a therapist, but I am a coach. Mm-hmm. And to some degree or another, I'm always supporting people in disruption, because when people are changing and growing, they're disrupting themselves. Right. The disruption's coming. The catalyst is coming from the inside. So my answer to that was to put together some free coaching calls, and they are truly free. I'm not, will it be good for me? Maybe, but that's secondary to being of service right now. And I do think there's something to that, the generosity of spirit, but there's also the flip side. When somebody responds in a negative way, I think just like anything else, yes, we can look at it and say, okay, how this was written and what I'm doing here, was I unintentionally insensitive, or overdoing it in some way? But then at a certain point, it becomes about the person who's reacting and where they are. And we don't know what's happening in their world. And they're coming, they're coming to your this very small sliver of who you are, which is a particular post, and they're reacting to it poorly. I don't think you of course, because you're a big-hearted person, take it to heart, but also know that it speaks more about where they are than from what you're doing.
Right.
There's a zillion businesses continuing to promote. We'll see them sponsored and I don't see anything wrong with that. Somebody's got to drive what's left of the economy on this. And,
for sure.
And we all need to be able to support ourselves. Period. End of story.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm finding that people are being very creative in how they're communicating. I was doing a writing course that I took at Ryerson, and we did our final class through Zoom. And, the instructor hadn't necessarily used that platform to any sort of level of extent, but it worked really nicely. Everybody got to engage. It would have been a real shame not to have closed the loop on that class and had our final group meeting and have some finality to it, or even like opening other doors with our classmates. So I do find that people are being really creative, and if you can be open, I mean, I had to cancel my March 31st Rising Tides event, and I've got all this great collateral, and I've got a whole bunch of stuff, and I've got great people who want to speak and share their stories, and people that we've engaged with in the past, and I didn't want to lose that opportunity to continue to lift everybody up through this community, and which has been great. It's been amazing, the response to it, which is awesome. But again, life does go on. There are businesses that are thriving. There are people that are thriving. There are also people who are not doing so well. And that's what this is all about, is sort of getting an opportunity. Where technology can be a hindrance, but it can also be incredibly beneficial. And at this time, if we use it well, I think that it can open a lot of doors and bring people back. The words of isolation don't necessarily need to mean complete removal from society, and because we're social beings.
Well, and also on my podcast, the last episode that I released was before we went on vacation, and it's with an expert on depression. His name is Dr. Stuart Eisendrath, and if someone's listening, wanting to have some strategies for how to deal with their thoughts, and I 100% recommend go there, listen, defer to the expert. That's what the podcast is there for, and how I use it to be able to reach out to these people. And he was talking about the dangers of isolation related to depression. And the other piece was the dangers of the relationship between rumination and depression. And the more we isolate, the more we have the potential to, not be constructively thinking, not be creatively thinking, but to be going over and over and over again in our minds. And that can set up a loop that is inherently unhealthy in terms of mental wellness. So it's all the more, I actually wish, and I'm not the first person to say this, I've seen other people saying it and heard it on the television as well, but I wish the term weren't social isolation, but it's an old term. It dates way back. Like, I used to live in Kelowna. I saw a post in 1918. Kelowna was put into social isolation because of the Spanish flu and another flu at the same time. This term social distancing is older than social media. Yeah. And we can be social. We just can't be physically present to each other. So in my mind, I'm trying to say to myself, this is physical isolation, not social isolation. It doesn't seem as heavy. Yes. And then I'm looking at, all right, now with the extra time from these meetings out of the house that I have, what can I replace with it that will help me to build my resilience, help me to build my creativity, and keep me from those darker corners of my mind that I'm well acquainted with, because I have struggled in the past with depression. And so being proactive. So yesterday, while we still could, my husband and I, counterintuitive, he got laid off yesterday. The first thing we did is we went down to the running room and I bought a new pair of runners, because I've been talking for months about getting back to running in the spring. And there you go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we can run, we can be outside. Yeah. And I know that's good for my body. Well, my body's older now than the last time I was running, but it's good for my body once I can get it going. And it's great for my mind and sense of confidence, and it will help me sleep better. I'm the kind of person, I've got a lot of energy. I need to make sure that I am tired at the end of the day so that I sleep at night. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so we all need these strategies for ourselves.
And I think that's a shift. And maybe if we can shift the conversation, which is one of the goals of these chats, is that it is physical isolation and not social isolation, and to use these online platforms and phone and whatever we can to continue that connection and these conversations, so that we don't get into the rumination and the getting too caught up in your head, and have those meetings that you were planning to have, but use these platforms, Zoom, FaceTime. Oh my gosh, there are so many, just even that telephone, like start talking to people, like social. Again, I think we need to encourage social interaction, and as opposed to,
something people, like most people have some form of video, one-to-one meeting, whether it's Skype or FaceTime, or just to be platform agnostic. But probably what a lot of people don't know is that Zoom is free for up to 40 minutes.
Yes.
So, and Zoom's the platform that I use in my coaching. It's the platform the owner is donating and making freely available to education institutes. It's a fabulous tool. And my birthday is the end of the month. So I'm actually thinking about putting together like a Zoom meeting for my family, like my extended family, but also doing a Zoom party with some friends, and just putting that out there. So and who knows, maybe it's the best birthday ever. I don't know. But, I was joking the other day about worst St. Patrick's Day ever. Well, maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe not. Yeah. And so I agree. I think that Zoom is a great platform. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And just get out and be social, because, and I mean, reach out to people who we know we connect with people on Facebook and these other platforms, but why not, if you haven't connected with somebody for a number of years and they're a friend on Facebook, why not get on a Zoom chat and say hi? It's really easy to do over Messenger. Well, thanks very much, Laura. What a great chat. Again, you've inspired some creativity, which is super. And do you have a final word that you wanted to?
Yeah. I just wanted to just before we wrap up, just as far as going back online, like I had gone off Facebook for quite some time in my personal space, because I just find it too much sometimes. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be also a good opportunity to just for a moment talk about using social media for positive or healthy means. And if you're finding that you're triggered when you're scrolling your news feed, and like to really think about what everybody's taking in, but equally, and perhaps most importantly, what people are sharing. Mm-hmm. Like there's been a proliferation of fear, like I am not an expert in epidemiology, so I am not commenting or posting about, COVID-19. I might share a graphic that I found on I did yesterday, Washington Post, that helped me to understand why this physical distancing is important, but I don't have comment about it because I'm not an expert. So, for everybody, it's individual. You might need less social media and more healthy social. And I just encourage you to discern if it makes you feel bad, drop it.
Oh, agreed. And thank you for clarifying that, because I agree. I find Facebook at this point to be quite challenging, but I find this very healthy and motivating, and keeping busy, which I'm a doer too. So no, I agree. I agree. Pick your forms of media, pick your forms of information, and interact in a way that's going to be healthy for you for however long this is going to maintain itself. So
absolutely. And if anyone wants to join on these the free community, I've named them Community Connection and Coaching. I thought the alliteration was cool. But there's over on my Facebook page, and maybe we'll put in the comments.
We will put it in the comments. Yeah.
And to be clear, I want money off the table. There's a video there that explains why and what they are. And I'm still building out some of the copy on the webpage, but it's ready. People have enrolled. And in a way, it's mutually beneficial, because I get to keep going with the Friday at 10 a.m. calls. I've loved our Winter of Self-Care that wrapped today on the first day of spring. But, so I get to keep that routine and ritual in my life of gathering with people online. And there's no obligation to attend every one. In fact, I'm doing Fridays at 10 and one other time through the week to hit time zones. And maybe some people need some relief, in the evening. So just get yourself on the list, and I'll send out the links to each call as they happen. And if you know someone who would benefit from being connected and creating fresh connection, this is a community opportunity. And I'll do my best to serve, but there's wisdom within the collective as well. So we really want to create that, and it's an opportunity for special connection. So I'm be very delighted to have people join. The more, the merrier.
Great. Good. Well, thanks very much, Laura. All of the information on this is going to be in the chat of this call. And please, I'm going to be doing these every day sometime between 12 and 2, depending on people's availability. So hop on. You can comment. You might have noticed I put my glasses on at one point because Allison made a comment and I couldn't read it without my glasses on. So sorry about that. But we're looking forward to seeing everybody online again tomorrow. It's going to be Janet Wilson, who is my next door neighbor. She's a cycling advocate and was one of the speakers for March 31st. So see you all tomorrow.
Thanks, Martha. This is a super generous thing you're doing.
Oh, thanks. It's a lot of fun. We'll talk soon.
Bye.